In this video, we are going to create the tasks in the ECS cluster. So let me take a new window here. Go to the Elastic Container Service, and then start creating some task definitions. So let us create a new task. So I'm not going with the for gate. I'm going with the EC2. Then click on next. So I will give, so the first thing I'm going to create is the config server whose image is available here. So I will go into that particular image and then so create a task definition. So let me give a name. It is config server. That is the name of the task. I will leave everything blank here. I don't have any specific role for this particular task. Roles are given if they want to make some API calls to the AWS services. I don't have any kind of functionality here. So I will leave the task role as blank. And also the network mode, you can see there are different types of network modes. I mean, YouTube has a lot of videos explaining what are these network drivers. So you can see there is a bridge driver, a host, and an AWS VPC. Bridge is the default driver or the default network available in Docker, as well as that is the case with the host. AWS VPC is a specific network provided by Amazon. Again, that is not our discussion. I will go with the bridge. I mean, if you select default, you can read it here. If you select default, bridge will be the network mode that will be used. So we are going to use bridge network here. Again, I will leave the task execution role because I have created some roles tasks previously. I can see there is already a execution role. If you are giving something new, you can go with the create new role. And then I will leave everything blank here, how much memory and all that anyway will be specified when I create the container. So again, I'm just giving a definition called config server. And then let us add the container. So what exactly, let me give the same name, config server as the name of the container. Again, when we get time, we will go through the CI/CD pipeline. At that time, the container name will come handy. And then what exactly is the image? So I will copy this particular URI of the config server and then just paste it here. And then comes the, of course, I don't need any authentication for this, so I'm good to go. So there is a hard limit and a soft limit. So I will go with a soft limit. Soft limit means how much minimum amount of memory that should be allocated for the container. There's a hard limit. This is the maximum amount of memory that will be allocated for the container. So for the time being, for this demo experimentation, I will give a soft limit of maybe 300. That will do. And then the port mapping. Because the config server is going to be running in port 8888, and I want to have some dynamic ports to be created. So I will leave the host to port blank and then give the container port as 8888. So what effectively this means that when this container gets deployed, the container port will be 88 will be mapped dynamically or be mapped to a port for a dynamic port. And then of course there is nothing much for me to do here. That's all for the container creation. I leave everything as is and click on the add. That's all for the task creation. And then let me complete and create this particular task. So of course I have created some configuration server tasks before. That's why it is appearing here as the revision as 12. If you are creating this for the first time, it will be 1. And then for any new, so how do we update the container? By clicking on this create new revision. So I have effectively created a config server. So here also you can click on this. Suppose you want to update some environment variables or maybe the image or whatever. So you update an existing task by clicking on this create new revision. Again, that is not the discussion. So we have created the task for the config server, and the next task is going to be the book service. So let us create the book service. Again, easy to going to the next step. I will give book service here as the task definition. I put everything default and I will add the container, and the container name is also going to be book service, and the image is going to be the book service image, and of course I have tagged it as 1.0, and then I just paste it here. Again, for this I'm going to give a soft limit of 300, and then here the book service, if you look at the book service, this book service is running at port 8090. So I will give a 8090 for the container port, but I leave the host port blank, or you can give 0 if you want. Whatever is the case, a dynamic port will be mapped to the container port. So again, I leave everything blank. There is nothing much to do. But in this case, there is one thing. This book service, if you remember, this book service communicates with the configuration server. So what we need to do, I'm going to use spring.config.import as the environment variable. So coming down, you can see there is an environment variables section. So I will give a spring.config.import, and then the value will be, first I will copy it here up to here, copy, paste it as the value here, and then after that I will give HTTP, then what exactly should be the value. That means we are trying to hit the config server. So we will go to the ALB. So that particular, we are going to hit the config server using this particular DNS name. And of course, what exactly is the DNS name? This is the DNS name at port 80. So I will copy this and then go back and paste it here. So what exactly we did, if you remember, we created a security group for the internal load balancer that allows traffic port 80 from in the VPC. So what effectively we are trying to do here, the book service needs to communicate with the configuration server, and this internal load balancer, the internal load balancer, of course, we need to tweak it a little. This load balancer will communicate with that particular because of the target group. Again, we will be not be using this. We will come to see those later. So using this particular internal load balancer, we are pointing to the internal load balancer telling, of course, I'm going to send traffic to your port 80. Please forward it to the container port of the config server. That's all we need to do. There is nothing much there. So let me double check. There is no other configuration required. No other configuration required. So we are good to go. So this is the only environment variable, spring.config.import, because when I created the application internally, it was using localhost. I'm effectively overriding the spring.config.import as an environment variable inside the container. So instead of this localhost 8888, it will be using the HTTP that load balances a DNS name. That's all we need to do. Nothing much. Click on the add button. Everything I leave as blank. So that's all there is to it. And then go ahead and then create that particular task. Again, I have created some book service before. That's why the book service is coming like this. So two tasks has been created. The last task we are going to create is the API gateway. So let us give an API gateway as the name of the tasks. I keep everything as a default here. I will go and add the container. give the container name as API gateway. And then for the image, I will go back to the repository, the API gateway, click on the image and copy that particular URI and then paste it here. That's all. Again, I'm going to give a soft limit. API gateway, we can take a lot of hits maybe. So I will give a little bit more space, at least for startup. The API gateway is going to work at 8080, I suppose. So I will give the 8080 port here as the container port. Again, it is a dynamic mapping. So again, if you look at the API gateway also at the application.yaml, you can see it also points to the configuration server. So we need to give one environment variable spring.config.import. So coming down, one more environment variable here, spring.config.import, and then the value, the initial value, I will copy up to HTTP, paste as the value here, and then of course we will be definitely using the internal load balancer DNS name. So let me copy this, go here and provide the name. So what effectively means, when this particular API application boots up, it will try to communicate with the config server. The config server is located through this particular internal load balancer. Okay, that's all. But there is one more key here. So if you look at the discovery, you can see there is a booking service I have provided. So here I'm going to give one more environment variable here called booking service. And this also is going to be the same. So let me see how I am actually using this booking service in the API gateway. So let me look at the root configuration, HTTP. So I only need to give the name of the DNS. So let me go back, copy the particular DNS. So this is a little bit different. So this HTTP booking service. So if you look at discovery booking service or 8090. So what we are going to effectively do here, just paste the value of the DNS, but I'm going to give a different port called 81. It will be obvious to you when the time comes. As I told you, this the private load balancer will use this DNS name. If you look here, there are something known as a listeners. This listener 80 is already being occupied, which we are going to use to forward the traffic to the config server. We are going to add one more listener, which will be pointing to the 81 or using the 81 port we haven't added it yet. We will do so very soon once we complete the service and all the stuff. Bear with me till then. So that's why for the booking service communication for the configuration server, we are going to use the port 80. That's why, because 80 is a default port for HTTP, I'm not giving the 80 port. But for the booking service, we are going to use an 81 port. So I'm giving the 81 port upfront. We will do some tweaking later. So these are the only two environment variables that I want to use in the Docker container. I think everything else is good to go. So let us create the container. That's all I'm going to do here. I will leave everything blank and just start creating the third task. So again, I'm keeping this simple. So 3 microservices, not actually, there's only one microservice called the book service. This is the Spring Cloud config server, and this is the Spring Cloud API gateway whose tasks has been created. The next thing is to create the service. We will do that in the next video.